In the arena.
Hey, this is Alejandro, Director of Boxing here at Landmark. I'm here today to show you the newer way to do a hand wrap tutorial from our old video. We had to update it. First thing I want to talk about before we really get you learning about wrapping it is making sure you have the right hand wrap. The best way to do this is to make sure you get a classic Mexican hand wrap, which is 180 inches. And there's very little difference between 180 and 120 and 108, depending on youth size. So you always want to make sure you get 180 when you start off. Doesn't really matter anything aside from 180 is what you need. Right, so the second thing we're going to do is we're always going to unroll it. And the first thing you want to do before you start going around anything is most of all of them are going to either have a tag or a side that says this side down. So they're going to put the thumb loop through the front, right? And you want to make sure that you go over the top always, never from the bottom, always over the top. Right, so you're going to go over the top. Now here's where, depending on your wrist size, you're going to vary between 3 and 6 rotations on that first wrist. Depending on your wrist size, I'm going to go ahead and do 4. So I'm going to come around, see this, and I'm just going to do it twice, 3 times, 4. Once we do 4 here, you got done first of the 3 steps. You got your wrist done. Now we got to lock in your thumb before you can move over to the knuckle pad. Right, so now I'm going to come underneath and over the thumb, under the thumb, and then back over the wrist. So I did that, and I'm going to cinch it down. It's very important that you always try to keep your palm facing down and in front of you, right around your chest the whole time when you're learning how to wrap your hands. If you turn them up as you're learning, you're going to get confused on what direction you're going. So you always want to keep it face down. You always want to keep your fingers spread out. So I'm going to go over my thumb one more time, over the thumb, under the thumb, over the wrist. Right, cinch back down. Make sure that it's not loose, so you always want to cinch it after those key 4 around the wrist, 2 around the thumb. Now we're going to move up to the knuckle pad. I'm going to come up over the top, and I'm going to go right where my pinky is, and I'm going to go over the knuckle pad from the bottom to the top. See how I'm doing this? And depending on your hand size, again, you can do this between 3 and 6 times. I'm only going to do it twice. So I'm going to go one more time. And when I come back for the second half, 2.5 times, I'm going to come underneath again, and I'm going to come over the back to the wrist. This is where you're going to have a common theme here. You're always going to start making an X, always on the top of the hand, never on the bottom. Right? So you always want to go back to that wrist bone. I'm going to go underneath the wrist. I'm going to go over the pinky and the ring finger. That's going to be the first finger you cinch. So from here, I'm going to cinch down. Always go to the index, over the top. There's my first X. Come back from the bottom, underneath the wrist, come back over the top. There's my second X. Now I'm cinching the ring finger and the middle finger. Again, go towards the index, underneath, over the top, make the first X, come back for the last one, and now you're out of fingers. So here you're pretty much all the way done, guys. Once you have all 4 fingers cinched, you're gonna go underneath towards the pinky, and you're gonna wrap those knuckle pads one more time. Right, make sure your hands and your fingers are as wide as they can throughout the whole process so your fingers will fall asleep. See how I'm pushing my fingers out wide apart? Based on how much you have left, I'm gonna cinch it probably about 3 more times around the knuckle pad here. See, I have about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet. So I'm gonna come around one more time, twice, and then the last time I'm always gonna come back over the top. That's a common theme. I'm never going back to my wrist on the bottom. It's always having to come up over the top. And you'll see why here at the end. So now that I'm back at my wrist, I finish off by just wrapping off at the wrist. Here, if you have a fitness watch, is where you can slip the fitness watch back underneath the wrist pad there, so it still gets your calculations down. When you're done, you always want to make sure you turn your hand over and you cinch this knuckle pad by pushing this up, and you see how this palm's always exposed? That's what you always want. That lets you know that you secured the wrist, the thumb, and the knuckle pad the right way in the right order. Right, so once you got this down, guys, I know it's confusing at first, but if you follow those steps in the right direction, first the wrist, then you lock in the thumb, then you work on the knuckle pads, you'll always have maximum protection for boxing or for boxing fitness.